Hello, David Zritsky for the Bond Experience. Welcome back. So I've done a few videos, you probably have noticed, on what I think can be fixed or how to roll out the new James Bond film, or looking back on Bond 25 but looking forward to Bond 26, hopes and dreams, what do James Bond fans want. You could tell I've been a bit fixated on just the whole speculation and dreaming of what the next James Bond film could and should and would be to just one Bond fan, just me. And I've noticed that in your comments, many of you have echoed this same sentiment. And what is that sentiment? Well, simply put, within less than 1 minute of the beginning of this video is, we want a fun film. A fun film. We want a triumphant film. We want a film that we can recognize the character that we all fell in love with, that many, many generations, not just this generation with the gray hair. I'll call it silver, because that's a little bit more complimentary. But not just the silver-haired people fell in love with, but many generations. 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds, 60, 70, 80-year-olds that I know who have embraced this character still over this many years, through all the trials and tribulations, still wave the flag of James Bond. I mean, look at my basement, my archive, my collection, whatever you want to call it. Is it a testimony? It is a celebration. I'm not here to batter and send up James Bond in a negative way. Quite the opposite. My entire channel is around celebrating the products, the marketing, the merchandise, the events, the people, the fan clubs, books, novels, everything. So look, this comes from a place of absolute love and adoration. It doesn't come from a place of hate and, oh, you know, look at all the stuff that they've done to our poor character. They've neutered him. No, it's not that. But as Henry Cavill said, when fans are passionate about something, it's not that they're being toxic. It actually means that they're being passionate. And some filmmakers are just doing it right. For example, I'm going to go back to Maverick, right? Top Gun 2. And we all know that that was a very successful film, but Tom Cruise did not set out to do anything else than one goal. And he says this in interviews, so it's not just me speculating. Tom Cruise said, I made this film to, wait for it, entertain people. Let them have fun, a triumphant moment. Hold on a second, go back to minute 1 of my video. Isn't that what I just said? I just want Bond to be. I don't need Bond to smoke cigarettes or whack women on the butts. I'm not even asking for those type of things. Put those aside. I'm saying that I just want a fun, triumphant Bond. And it, by the way, the formula is already there. Just like with Top Gun, the formula was there. And this is something else that Tom Cruise said. He said there is a formula. There is music. There are certain vistas and shots. There's certain things that the hero needs to do. There needs to be an arc. There needs to be sub-heroes and genres going on that all intertwine together. There needs to be either a faceless or a faced conflict. It could be a bad guy, could be an environment. All those things are basic storytelling. It's like caveman storytelling, or it's what Pixar used to do, for example, in storytelling. All I'm saying is, with all of these videos, if you were to add them all up, is go back to the basic tenets of following the formula and storytelling. Now, here's my prognosis, and it's one person's prognosis, take it for what it is, but maybe it's yours. Share in the comments if you feel the same way. I feel like some filmmakers today are doing one of two things. Either they're trying to set a particular agenda, and that could be anything from political to cultural to you name it. It could be something that they're trying to drive a spike in the ground and say, you know something, we've done it like this forever. We're going to do it differently just to be different. Just because it's time for us to shake things up. And that's their reason for doing things differently very often, or to try to align themselves, for example, to a new audience. Maybe it's a younger audience. Maybe it's an audience with different proclivities, etc. They tend to go in a different direction. But although I think that's admirable to shake things up and do things differently, some of my favorite Bond films do that, there is a dial to do that. Think about a dial on your volume control. So you could dial that difference in shaking things up to 2. All right, not bad. Little difference here. I see what they did. I see what you did, filmmaker. You could dial it up to 5. Whoa, look what they did. Okay, I mean, those are choices. But a lot of filmmakers today are going to 9 or to 11. They're going to 11 on a dial of like 10 as far as changing things up. Because they're like, well, clearly the Bond of old and, you know, all these other things like Star Wars and things like that, they're antiquated. They're a time of a bygone era. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you, no matter what your age, no matter what your background is, your belief system, etc., fun is fun. Happy is happy. The reason why people connect to these characters versus My Little Pony or some other genre is because of where the characters come from, what they do, with all of their fallibilities, with all their negativities, with all of their scars. We embrace our scars. I got one right here. I got one. It's like a Harry Potter scar, but it's not. It was done when I was a child. Not to me. I did it to myself. Easy. Don't call Dyfus. But with James Bond, the reason why I connect with this character is because he's got a lot of warts on him. Not physically, but he's got a lot of mental warts. He's got a lot of backgrounds. He's this fallible anti-hero. And we all adore anti-heroes because guess what? We all are. Like none of us are perfect. I've made so many mistakes just today and it's only like 12:35 in the afternoon. And I've made like 10 mistakes today. So we connect with James Bond because we see a reflection of who we are in our lives. And therefore, he's more relevant and he's more relatable. So why would we want to change, like some filmmakers want to do, all of that relevancy and relatability to your core audience? To your core audience. And there's no walking away from it. I'm sorry to say, I'm sorry, not sorry, but your core audience is like the David Zaritsky's of the world. It just is. It's wonderful that we have in the James Bond community so many varied, a cornucopia of individuals, but at the heart of it, the bigger percentage, the people that also will share these things out, they represent a lot of different backgrounds. So don't swing the pendulum back all the way. Maybe, remember that dial I told you about? Maybe do like a 2 to 5, 2 to 5 if you really want to make it different. 2 to 5, that's all you need to do. And then you still have that connectivity to Bond. So the second thing, besides the change, just for change's sake, that I see filmmakers do nowadays, is they're really trying to roll back and they're trying to connect this to, as I said, ushering in a new audience. I've heard this many, many times. We need a younger audience. We need the new audience. We need this, we need that. But what happens is, and this is basic marketing, I'm sorry to say it is, and I'm a marketer, so I feel like I could say this with some validity. What happens is, if you do not take care of your base foundation audience, and let's say they represent 75% to 80% of your core audience that goes there and who motivates other people in their family and in their friend circle to go there. Let's call them, you know what, it's a bad word. Let's call them your influencers in the standpoint of there could be millions of these people, but they talk to other people about go seeing this film. And they will fly the flag in a positive way of James Bond if you give them what they want. What did Elliot Carver say? Give the audience what they want. It's true. So if you want to, and who doesn't, which filmmaker doesn't, make your movie the way you want to make it, that's fine. But at the core of it, do not walk away shocked and surprised if you absolutely ignore your core audience, the ones who, just from a business perspective, drive the bulk of your revenue. Now, I could name so many films that have not listened to this bit of advice, not to ignore your core audience. But I'm not going to. I'm going to keep this a very positive video. It's a positive channel. I'm trying to create positivity. You getting the whole positive vibe here? But I will say this, they're paying for it in the box office, but they act shocked when people don't go to these movies. They're like, I don't get it. I don't get it. We created a new version for them, for a new audience, and nobody came to it. And what they do is they call the fan base that they have ignored toxic. But go back to what Henry Cavill said, who I've always said he'd be a great ambassador for the Bond fans. Is it toxicity or is it passion? Are we protective of James Bond because we have so much passion for James Bond? Or are we just toxic because we fear change and it's like, nannyism? Like we're going to start to roll our hands together. It's not that. I should say, let me just speak for myself. I don't want to speak for my entire audience. I've seen some crazy comments, which is, hey, bring them all on. That's the world is filled with different opinions. Why not? Why are we shutting out one to adopt others? That's just not me. But I'm pretty open-minded about things. And I'm even sitting here saying, if you ignore your core audience, if you try to usher in a new audience, why don't you do something a bit different? And here's a little bit of a fix. I'll meet you halfway. So you want a new audience. Maybe you want a younger audience. Maybe you want more gender equality. Whatever it is that you think will get you there to drive the audience, to put butts in seats, to drive the revenue, why don't you connect with your core audience to see what made them fall in love with James Bond to begin with? Because here's something I really believe. I don't think filmmakers should insult the audience's intelligence. You see, let me explain. I think the younger generation, people with different religious backgrounds or proclivities or beliefs or stances, they all would fall in love with the same James Bond that I fell in love with. The gadget-carrying, style-carrying, cars, missions, yes, even the quips and things like that, even the fallibility of the character. I think every single one of them would love that. But what happens is there tends to be a neutralization. Well, clearly that aspect of James Bond would offend this group right here. So let's move that over. But how do we know that? Because I don't know about you, I'm friends in the Bond community with so many different characters, that I can't even imagine a James Bond fan being one way. So why would you assume as a filmmaker, as a creator, of what comes forward about what they want and what they don't want? I would go back to the core audience. And by the way, the core audience is not just David Zaritsky's. It just isn't. It's a varied amount of people from day one, from when the first film came out in 1962 to way back when the first book came out. You think it was just the David Zaritsky's of the world embedding themselves into this world of Bond and this 007 digestion that goes on? It's not. So as a filmmaker, as a creator, what I would do if I ran the zoo, which I never will, but here I go, I would then think about, all right, we know we want a new audience. We want new individuals to embrace this. What is it that the core audience loves and wants? And how do we feed this new audience more of that in the way that they consume, in the way that they want to connect with James Bond? And by the way, if they do it right, if they truly are analytical, they do the market research, they do focus groups about this, what is going to happen is it's going to serve up everything I wished for in the first minute of this video. Fun, triumphant, mission Bond, fallible Bond, all the Bond stuff that we crave and know. We want our James Bond music at the appropriate time. We want James Bond to be triumphant. We want to walk out of the theater like Tom Cruise said that he was going to have Maverick do. Walk out of the theater and people were going to just, yeah, I could do anything. I'm inspired by what I just saw, the heroicism the achievement of impossible things against impossible odds. That's James Bond. Now, let me close this video with something that is, I think, very right now. I just saw a movie with my wife Danielle. I mean, just saw it like last night. And it was Beverly Hills Cop, Axel Foley. It is the 2024 version of Beverly Hills Cop. Same characters, same actors. And I sat down, arms crossed, and what Eddie Murphy and his cohorts delivered was something that, yes, nostalgically connected and representative of the first two movies. The third movie, not so good. This is the fourth. It was so good because it was fun. It was representative of the character who's incredibly fallible, like us. And it was triumphant. And by the way, just to add a little extra flavor in all of this, I noticed that they didn't use any CGI, or hardly any CGI. There wasn't a lot of technology. They did things for real, and you felt it. You could connect with the characters. Eddie Murphy was the Eddie Murphy from 1984. He was funny. He was snarky. The bad guys were extreme bad guys. They were like, twiddling their mustache bad guys. But it didn't need to be twisty. You served up exactly what the audience wanted. And I've heard in overnight ratings, the movie exploded in popularity because, and by the way, I dare say it's probably not just with the Danielle and David Zaritsky's. It's probably with every bit of audience. And I have a feeling, as I've talked to my friends about this, they probably sat down with their family and now they're introducing Axel Foley to their families and they're probably going back and seeing the 1984 version. That's how we create this dynamic of marketing, of word of mouth, and going back to the Bond that we all love. By the way, not that we ever left. I've had fun with all of the Bond films, but now we're in that moment right now where we're like, oh my gosh, like look at all these filmmakers out there. Look at all these distribution and these film companies who are doing things differently. And they're sometimes putting a pie in the face of our hero. All I'm saying is embrace what came before you. Embrace what worked. Yes, add your own peppering and your own spice. And you want to connect to a new audience? There's great ways to do that that do not deflate and do not offend your core audience. So you're saying, David, that these filmmakers could have it all? You could have it all. And it's not overly complicated. I just talked about it in 18 minutes. All right, there you go. Little bit, go have fun. Go have fun with James Bond. There's so much fun to do out there with people, with events, with movies, with style, and even with crazy people on YouTube like me. I'll talk to you real soon. Take care. Thanks for watching this episode. If you want to be up on the latest from the Bond experience, just click on this subscribe and subscribe to our channel. You're going to get all the latest and greatest information, plus some exclusive content. And by the way, speaking of content, here's something especially for you, just because we know you. Talk to you soon.